What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the KBR Sports YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to be telling you exactly what Kevin Durant would have to do to try and get his name into the top 5 players, top 5 of all time. Stay tuned for the video and we'll be right back. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the KBR Sports YouTube channel. If you haven't already, make sure you go ahead and hit the subscribe button so that way you get notified whenever a new KBR Sports video is uploaded, and make sure you hit the notification bell so that you definitely get the notifications directly to your phone. It's as easy as peachy, man. You just click it. It's not really that hard, you know what I mean? Because YouTube, sometimes they won't let you see the video if you haven't clicked it, or unless you go to your subscribers tab. So make sure you go ahead and hit both if you haven't already subscribed, especially if you want to see more NBA and NFL content here on this channel. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you leave a like as well. Always appreciate that, and follow my social media handles that you'll see right here on the bottom of the screen, and of course, guys, they'll be included down in my description as well. And let me not get too far into it, guys. I did want to just kind of, before I get everything kicked off, I wanted to give a disclaimer as to what the criteria is for this video, because obviously this video I'm going to be doing a lot of comparisons, more so comparing Kevin Durant to other guys that I feel as though are top 5 or right on the outskirts of the top 5. So pretty much like 4 through 7, 8 kind of thing. And I didn't include guys like Wilt Chamberlain or Bill Russell, mainly because they were in a primarily different era than Kevin Durant, and because of the way the stats and stuff, the pace of play and all of that might be a little bit too different to compare. And I wanted to make sure I kept it to mainly wing players who are comparable to Kevin Durant in style of play, or even just where they navigate on the court. So that's kind of why you might not see names like Wilt, Bill Russell, Tim Duncan on this list, because I don't feel like some of those guys, they get a fair shake if I was to compare them straight up numbers to numbers, and you have to do a deeper analytical comparison to really be able to do that. But guys, let me get this video kicked off, because the first guy I want to really compare Kevin Durant to, actually, let me first make Kevin Durant's case for wanting to be a top whatever player of all time, because obviously we got all these different ranking lists and everything that have guys placed all over the place, right? And that kind of was the inspiration for this video. Let's take a look at Kevin Durant's career, because so far in Kevin Durant's career, what we see from Kevin Durant is pretty accomplished. 4-time scoring champion. He made 9 All-NBA teams, 6 of those being a first team, 3 of them being second teams. He's been an MVP. He's had 3 second place finishes to LeBron. He's a 10-time All-Star. He is a 2-time Finals MVP with 2 finals or 2 championship rings. And his career averages is 27 points per game, 4 assists, 7 rebounds, field goal percentage of 49%, a 3-point percentage of 38%, as well as 88% from the free throw line, and a 25.2 PER. Okay, and apart from Kevin Durant literally just being one of the most lethal scorers of all time, he was a part of arguably one of the best rosters of all time. You look at it, this the starting 5 that they rolled out in Golden State would be him, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and Andre Iguodala coming off the bench, and then whatever mix of a center you want to throw in there with Zaza, JaVale McGee, whoever else you want to put out there. It was arguably one of the best rosters you could possibly put out there in terms of lineups that you had and the flexibility you had to be able to use those lineups. And a lot of that was revolved around Kevin Durant. And I've always made this claim with Kevin Durant. I've always said that Kevin Durant is the best player at doing the most with the least. And if you want to see more about that, you can check out my Kevin Durant is Unguardable video, which I'll have linked here in the video. But I describe a lot of how Kevin Durant can do the most with the least, and a lot of it's because he's such a supreme jump shooter. Like, guys, listen to this stat, right? 39.9% of Kevin Durant's shots, so most of his shots come from a distance of 10 feet or more. So it means it's mainly all mid-range shots and further on. And 26% of those are being 3-point attempts. So imagine how efficient you have to be for you to be a career 49% shooter, and then majority of your shots are coming from the mid-range to out to the 3-point line. So that's the kind of lethal scorer we're talking about here. And that's honestly Kevin Durant's best claim to cracking this list. And we're going to see how he stacks up against the other guys on the list, because scoring is what he does. LeBron is known as the guy as the Swiss Army knife. So LeBron does everything. And so LeBron has just overwhelmed everybody with his overall compilation of stats over his career. Whereas Kevin Durant, you want to see him be a guy that can outpace everybody in terms of points, because he's that good of a scorer. But we'll see how he does stack up to a lot of the legends. And the first guy I would probably say on the list we have to bring up is Magic Johnson, because when we're talking about the greatest players of all time, 1 through 3, I think most people have a agreement on who they believe it is. It's either whatever formation of this list being Michael Jordan, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, LeBron James. When you come down to 4, 5, 6, whatever, that's when you start throwing guys like Magic Johnson in the hat. And Magic Johnson being a guy who's a 5-time champion in and of his own right. And Magic was the orchestrator of Showtime. He's one of the most prolific players that you could ever have dribble a basketball. And he's probably the one guy in NBA history you probably would say, I love to watch this guy pass the basketball more than score it. Because Magic, whenever he got the basketball, it felt like you were watching the Harlem Globetrotters. And that's probably one of the reasons why you see he's a 4-time assist champion, 2-time steal champion. He was a 2-time All-Star MVP, 12-time All-Star, 10-time All-NBA, 3-time Finals MVP. He's a 3-time MVP. And in terms of career numbers, he's a 19.5 point per game scorer, 11 assists per game, 7 rebounds per game, 52% from the field, 30% from three, 84.8% from the free throw line, and 24.1 PER. So Magic, a lot of what he did was he put basketball back on the map. Him and Larry Bird as a duo, really, because of the rivalry between the Lakers and Celtics. And Magic made the NBA fun. Like, he gave the NBA kind of style of play that people have really been trying to replicate since then. Like, people have been trying to bring back Showtime in and of their own right. And you could really say the Golden State Warriors were the closest thing to that. But the way the Golden State Warriors are so exciting to watch, this is 3-point barrages they put on, honestly, from game in, game out. But what Magic did, in the ways that people talk about being a quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, one of the premier positions in sports, you could truly make that same case about being the point guard of the Los Angeles Lakers. It's one of the most prestigious positions to have in sports, and that's because of Magic Johnson. Like, Magic Johnson made that position what it is. You know what I'm saying? So now, when you talk about that, it's like a mythical position to play. And when you draft a point guard, like how long that comparison to being trying to be the next Magic kind of guy and run Showtime. So that's just what Magic has done. And really, Magic deserves his own video in terms of all the impact he made on the NBA in terms from a marketing standpoint, business standpoint. Like, Magic's smile, his face, everything. Like, when Magic walks into a room, it's just different. Everybody feels the air in the room change. And not to say Kevin Durant doesn't carry the gravity of his own, but it gets outshined by Magic easily. And Kevin Durant, as an all-around player, he obviously is a better scorer than Magic, but all around, neither guy has really planted their flag as a all NBA kind of defender. And Magic, for what he produces as an all-around guy, getting his teammates involved and being able to run an offense, he still has a more impact on the game than Kevin Durant has had in whatever amount of years that he's had. Magic Johnson came into the NBA and won a championship. You know what I mean? Like, his rookie year, granted, he had the dogs and the team to do it, but it's pretty impressive for a rookie to come in and still be one of the leaders on that team and lead that team to a championship. So that just speaks a lot to what Magic Johnson means as a player. And the second guy, Magic's rival, being a Larry Bird. So pretty much we got one L for Kevin Durant so far, right? So now we're going to compare him to Larry Bird, really, and see how he stacks up to Larry. Because Larry, a lot of the things I said about Magic, you could honestly apply to Larry, but Larry even helped to save the game of basketball in his own right because he was a white superstar. Like, that's what Larry Bird was. And at the time, the NBA was in a place where people weren't feeling it as much because they didn't feel the white superstar was getting enough pub. And Larry Bird really changed that by being the guy worth that pub and showing that he had that claim to that mantle, which is why he got the name the Great White Hope. So that was just one thing about Larry Bird. But I mean, he was a 12-time All-Star, 3-time All-Defensive Team. He's won the Rookie of the Year. He's an All-Star Game MVP, 10-time All-NBA, 3-time MVP, 2-time Finals MVP, and a 3-time NBA champion with career numbers of 24 points per game, 6 assists, 10 rebounds, 49.6 field goal percentage, 37.6 three-point percentage, free throw percentage of 88.6%, and he had a PER of 23.5. So Larry was arguably Kevin Durant before Kevin Durant in some ways, just because he could do it all, and he could do it better, honestly, than Kevin Durant in terms of the all-around game. Kevin Durant's still a better scorer from what we see in the numbers, but there's always a weird feel to it because you are comparing two different eras. And I always say Larry Bird would be the perfect guy if you could go back to the past and drop him in today's game. Larry Bird would be the guy to probably benefit off of anybody, because Larry Bird was shooting threes, he was the perimeter guy before it became cool. And so if you want to talk about that, I think Larry Bird easily he's the second best power forward of all time. We were talking about him and LeBron and Kevin Durant. And it's just because he was a better all-around guy. Kevin Durant, that's why I say Kevin Durant's best claim is to be a better scorer than everybody, because when it comes to all-around ability, Kevin Durant just doesn't compare to these other guys. Like, Larry Bird averaged a double-double on his career. You know what I mean? And he's 3 to 4 inches shorter than Kevin Durant when you're measuring them both. So that just goes to show what the commitment was for Larry Bird in terms of being able to rebound the basketball, push it, run the offense for the Celtics in his own way. And you could make a case that he is one of the most skilled players of all time just because of all the things Larry Bird could do. Like Larry Bird, there's so many stories about him, even as a trash talker, when you hear the stories about him entering the three-point shooting contest, seeing his competition, and then coming up to the guys and saying, so who's finishing second? You know what I mean? Like, that's the kind of guy Larry Bird was. He was so confident in his ability. He played a game shooting left-handed and still got buckets on guys. Let him know what he was doing. So that's the kind of guy we're talking about here. So I have to chalk that one up to Kevin Durant. Larry Bird. I don't really see Kevin Durant. I don't unless he just overwhelms him in rings. I can't really see Kevin Durant knocking off Larry Bird in that right. So the next guy I'm going to go to is Shaq. Now, Shaq, I had to put Shaq on this list because Shaq is one of the biggest guys of the modern era. And stats-wise, Shaq was so dominant, he can't compare to Kevin Durant in terms of overall stats. And Shaq's career accolades, they speak for themselves. 15-time All-Star, 3-time All-Star Game MVP, Rookie of the Year, 3-time All-Defensive Team, 2-time scoring champion, 4-time All-NBA, 8 first team, 2 second team, 4 third team. He's an MVP, 3-time Finals MVP, and a 4-time NBA champion. And Shaq, his career numbers, when you're looking at it, 23.7 points per game, 10.9 rebounds, 2.5 assists, a field goal percentage of 58%, a 52% free throw percentage. That's pretty bad, but he has a PER of 26.4. And when we talk about Shaq, we're talking about literally the most dominant player in NBA history. The guy that you drop in any era, they can't do anything with him unless you just want to foul your team out doing the hack of Shaq. You can't do anything with Shaq. Like, Shaq would ragdoll anybody in his prime, and it would handle anybody easy with his prime. You'll see here, I'm going to link a different video where I talk about Shaq should have been the greatest player of all time with that talent. And Kobe said it himself. If Shaq would have worked and had the Kobe work ethic the way Kobe did, I mean, Shaq easily could have been the greatest player of all time because nobody could handle Shaq. And Shaq, in terms of all-around ability, he was so dominant on offense. You see the 2 scoring titles as a big man. That's a big deal. As a big, when you have to rely on somebody else to get you the basketball, and then you can't shoot free throws that well, and you still win 2 scoring titles, dude, that's major. You know what I mean? And when you're the feature guy in the prime of Kobe Bryant, and when Kobe Bryant's entering his prime, you're still the guy that they feature the offense around. Yeah, you have to be a monster to still be that guy to put Kobe Bryant in the number 2 spot. You know what I mean? So when we're talking about that and comparing Kevin Durant to Shaq, like, Shaq took the Orlando Magic to the finals within his first, like, he was still a youngin'. In the same span that Kevin Durant did it for the Thunder, Kevin Durant, you can make the case when he went there and played LeBron, Kevin Durant didn't play bad, but when he kept getting back in those second chances, he just couldn't break through. And Shaq, when you make the case for Shaq, he had like a relentlessness that Shaq, he knew he had to win with his own team and make sure that happened. Whereas Kevin Durant, he really had to go join Steph and the other guys. And even though you give him credit because he got the Finals MVPs, everybody, I'm not going to be the guy that's going to try and demean them, but I know everybody looks at those rings differently than when we look at Shaq's 3 rings with the Lakers, right? You know what I'm saying? So that's just something that I think in terms of Shaq, that goes into Shaq's a win for Shaq's category. And Shaq took the mantle after Michael Jordan retired. Like, the ratings dipped and everything after Michael Jordan's first retirement. Shaq was the premier guy in the NBA who was making a name for himself during that time period. And then after that, Shaq was the biggest face in the NBA at that point in time, when Shaq was the guy that was getting to the NBA Finals, winning, getting his MVP, and so on. And so Shaq, he's one of the biggest personalities of all time, probably dating back to Magic Johnson. And so when you talk about marketing and you just talk about brand and face, you just know Shaq. You just know who Shaq is. Shaq can walk into anywhere and everybody's like, Shaq, you know what I mean? Like, Kevin Durant doesn't carry that same weight. And I think Shaq, obviously, he played defense to a degree that Kevin Durant didn't. Kevin Durant's always been on that level of, I want to play defense, but then doesn't carry it for the whole season, which you have to do if you want to be in this conversation of top 5 all time. So that, to me, is what kills Kevin Durant's conversation against Shaq. And he just needs to, if you're going to pass a guy like Shaq, you have to be able to win more championships and improve the overall individual accolades. Kevin Durant's best claim on his resume is his 4 scoring titles. And yeah, the 2 Finals MVPs help. But when your team is so overwhelmingly better than the other team, it's like, it hurts. You're just not going to get the just due that you deserve, as opposed to if you would have won the championships on the Thunder. You know what I mean? So I have to give that L to Kevin Durant in that regard. So far, it's not looking good for Kevin Durant. Passing up those 3 guys, unless he far outperforms the way his pace that he's been performing. So the best guy that he probably has a chance on this list to try and pass, and it's even tough, but it's just because of the manner of how Kevin Durant would have to pass Kobe Bryant, is because of the fact they both are on the list for the same reasons. See, Kobe Bryant is known as one of the most prolific scorers of all time, one of the most relentless scorers, one of the most skilled scorers, whatever you want to put an adjective in front of the word scorer, adverb in front of the word scorer, Kobe Bryant probably could, if it's positive, Kobe Bryant probably applies to that word. And when we're talking about Kobe has the accolade list that's as good as anybody. 18-time All-Star, 4-time All-Star Game MVP, 12-time All-Defensive Team, 15 All-NBA teams, 11 first team, 2 second team, 2 third teams, 2-time scoring champion. He's won an MVP, 2 times final MVP, and 5-time NBA champion. Guys, that's a heck of a list. And then you throw out his numbers career-wise, 25, 5, and 5 in terms of points, assists, rebounds, field goal percentage of 44.7% of his career, 3-point percentage of 33%, and his free throw percentage of 83.7%. And Kobe's PER for his career was 22.9. Okay, so when we're looking at a guy like Kobe Bryant, a lot of people say he's Michael Jordan reincarnated. Like, he's just not as good as Michael, but in terms of how efficient Michael was as a scorer and what Michael just imposed his will. Kobe had ways to impose his will, but Kobe just wasn't as efficient as a guy as Michael Jordan. So that's what kills Kobe's case in terms of getting compared to Michael. But if you wanted to say, let me max out the cap on all the skills involved in being a scorer on Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant was that. Like, Kobe Bryant didn't have the raw athleticism that Michael did. He didn't have the birth gifts like Michael Jordan's hands and so on, the raw athletic ability, but he had the skill to match all his drive and Michael's competitiveness. So that's where you say Kobe Bryant is Michael 2.0. And for Kobe, you could say he's arguably one of the most skilled players of all time. He can make any pass, he could hit any shot really, and his footwork is, honestly, probably say it's only paralleled by Michael Jordan and Hakeem Olajuwon in today's game, or in the most recent era that we've had. Those guys, in terms of footwork, Kobe Bryant it's a different kind of animal when you're talking about footwork. But Kevin Durant's best claim to pass up Kobe is literally his efficiency as a scorer, because Kobe, for all how great he was as a scorer, a lot of the greatest scorers in NBA history all shot around the 50% line, but Kobe, he was hovering around the 45% region. But there is some context that needs to be provided there, because Kobe played in an era where ISO basketball was coveted. And during that time period, a lot of guys, they didn't care about the efficiency. It was about volume. And you score through volume and having the drive to take those shots. That's why you see a lot of the guys from the mid-2000s, that time, early 2000s, late 90s, the guys like Allen Iverson, Kobe Bryant, Tracy McGrady, Vince Carter, all those guys, Carmelo Anthony, those guys aren't all the most efficient scorers, even though you wouldn't doubt their ability to put the ball in the hoop. It's because they took some of the most reckless shots that you could probably think of. But it's one of the reasons why you would say a guy like Kobe Bryant is overrated and underrated, because he gets pumped up because you remember all the heroic shots and the amazing shots he would hit, but then he missed a good amount of them, but just off the fact that they were very difficult shots he was taking. Whereas a guy like Kevin Durant, like I said, he does the most with less. But when he takes those shots, Kevin Durant's taking the most efficient shots most times as possible that he can get, whether it's coming off of pin downs and stuff, coming off of screens to get an open jumper where the defense can't elevate with him anyway. They're already getting screened, and then got his 7-foot frame. I mean, the dude's going to hit most of the shots that he's getting because he's just so tall and he's taking good shots. So that's probably Kevin Durant's best claim. But even to pass up Kobe, you would have to be an outrageously efficient shooter in terms of hovering around that 50% range, having your scoring points per game percentage still be higher than Kobe's, and then get the accolades to match Kobe as well, because with the 5 championships, it's the guy's in a different stratosphere. That even though Kevin Durant has the MVP, Kevin Durant has the 2 finals MVPs and 2 championships, he's still 3 championships short. And whereas a guy like, when you're talking about Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Shaq, LeBron, all those guys, they all have these MVPs. They all have these outstanding numbers that you have that can match Kobe's, or even the championships that can match Kobe's. But when you're talking about Kevin Durant, he still has to get those things. And Kevin Durant, even just as an all-around player, he's still not as good as Kobe, because Kevin Durant still hasn't made an all-defensive team yet. And guys, we're talking about 10 years plus in the league at this point. He still hasn't made a defensive team, all-defensive team, because he hasn't consistently played defense on both ends on a high level on a consistent basis. Whereas a guy like Kobe, when you're talking about 12 all-defensive teams, that's just, Kobe played 20 years in the NBA. When you make 12 all-defensive teams out of the 20 years, that says a lot. You know what I mean? So Kevin Durant, it's tough for me to see how he really cracks the top 5, especially when now we're considering all these great teams around, and he's missing a year due to the Achilles. So you're already out of your prime. So it's a tough thing. It's a tough ask to really see and visualize. But hey, when the guys are great, they find a way. So we'll see if Kevin Durant can pull it off. But guys, it's going to wrap it up for this KBR Sports YouTube video. Obviously, if you guys have your thoughts and opinions, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Let me know if you think Kevin Durant has a case that he could pass any of these guys on this top 5 list. And if there's other guys you think that should be thrown in here as well that you think Kevin Durant can be compared to see if he has to top those guys in a way to get into that conversation. Like I said, I wanted to compare it mainly to wing guys. And Shaq was kind of an outlier out there because he is a part of the modern NBA and deserved that claim. But guys, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell for more content like this. Leave a like, and you'll see all my social media handles down below in the description, as well as my website and so on. So guys, until next time, I'm out.